Hey guys, Icarus here. I just wanted to make a couple videos about a couple topics that have been on my mind since the release of Diablo 4 and now some of the announcements about Path of Exile 2, where Path of Exile, the original, is going, and really just my general thoughts on ARPGs and hardcore solo self-found in general. So I am sort of like a born hardcore solo self-found gamer type. If I have a game and it doesn't have a hardcore mode, I make it a hardcore mode. If my character dies, I delete it and I start over. And I've done that since I was a kid, which really from very young, which was very weird. I remember to my dad when he was teaching me these games. I remember playing the original Diablo and being like, well, my character died, this is stupid. I don't want to continue playing. There's no stakes if the death doesn't matter, so I deleted and started again. And obviously I've continued doing that with a lot of different modes. And one of the big changes between the Diablo 1 era and other games of that era and now is this idea of always online. And obviously that's here to stay, and there's reasons for it, both in terms of the company being able to protect themselves from crackers and things of that nature, and also just from a competitive environment standpoint. If you want to have, a race, you need to make sure everything's fair and people aren't doing stuff online that's cheating the system in some way. It's not like I don't understand the reasons for it, but it also has some pretty significant issues. And it was sort of really highlighted to me in the last League of Poe, and then also in playing Diablo 4. So in the last League in Poe, I had two characters that died to disconnect, and then I stopped playing for the League. It is really, really common for me to have a lot of disconnects on characters. It's just a function of where I am. I'm in a small town in Ireland, and the wiring in the house is old, and the computer is reasonably strong, but with all those things together, I get disconnects, and I plan for that, really, when I build my characters. I expect to be disconnected 20, 25 times in a league on a single character. But the last time, my characters are virtually always fine. I build them very tanky in part for that reason. In fact, largely for that reason. But this last league, in relatively not dangerous environments, on tanky characters, I disconnected, and by the time it allowed me to come back in, my character was dead. And that's really confusing to me because, literally one of them I was over-leveled for the map I was in with virtually nothing dangerous around me, and my character was dead. And I thought, how? Literally just standing in a pack on this map, I don't think anything could kill me, and yet my character has somehow died since I disconnected. And I found out that it seemed like there was some issue, I guess, with some of the servers in Europe where instead of a normal 6 seconds until you're disconnected, it was 20 or 30 seconds, I guess. Although even then, I don't really understand how the character could have died, but it did, so okay, whatever. Made another one, and a similar thing happened, a somewhat more dangerous area, but still not somewhere I would expect to die on a disconnect, but I did. And so I stopped playing for the league, because for me, the game sort of loses its interest if I can't play in that league. It's just, for whatever reason, that's how my brain is wired to enjoy the game. I like that challenge. But in any case, fine. I downloaded Diablo 4 when it came out. I got into these games through Rogue, as in the DOS, the thing everything called a roguelike is based on. But in terms of ARPGs in the classic sense, Diablo 1 is the one that sort of brought me in. So I still have a lot of affection for the Diablo series, even though I sort of felt that it lost its way in Diablo 3. So downloaded that game. Went into it really fully blind. Made a hardcore character. Progressed to I think level 25 or 30 or something. And I got in a situation where it was lagging. And I manually disconnected the wire to the computer, having sort of the Poe mindset, thinking, well, I'd rather, I don't know how it works with Diablo or Blizzard.net or whatever, but clearly this isn't resolving. I'm just going to disconnect the wire, plug it back in, see what happens. And plugged back in and found that I was dead, which I was surprised by because I was, relatively healthy. And then I found out that, that's just the rule in Diablo 4, is if you disconnect a hardcore character, they consider you to be dead. That's their way, in their mind, of making the game, I guess, safe from people that, do the Poe thing where they log out, which I am also guilty of, although I typically do it to avoid connection issues, not because I'm trying to run away from something. But in any case, that's just how they've made the game work. If you disconnect as a hardcore character in Diablo 4, the character is dead. And that essentially killed my interest in the game. I haven't played it, well, that's not entirely true. I played it very briefly after that, but basically haven't played it since. And I don't really see myself going back to it because it really affects my enjoyment of the game. Even though there's things that I love in the Diablo series that you don't need to necessarily be a hardcore character to enjoy. Like, I like the storyline. I like how they build the world. There's things that I like about it that really don't have to do with that sort of experience, and yet the experience is still core enough to me that it really decreases my interest. And since then, I've heard that they've talked about maybe making it so that if you disconnect in Diablo 4, your character opens a portal and goes back in, and there's a certain animation time for that. And I think that sounds like a really good solution. I hope that what I would like to see, and I would have liked to see this in Poe as well, is just if there's not a connection to the server for a certain amount of time, and I wish this was a setting that you could say, okay, if I haven't connected to the server, through whatever range that you set it as, so as a hardcore player, I'd probably want it to be pretty quick, like maybe even just like 2 seconds or less. Just disconnect me and I will come back in and I'll figure it out from there. I would love a setting like that where, your computer hasn't connected to the server in a second? Okay, fine, you've opened a portal and you've gone back to town, and that's just how it would work. And I would really, really like that. Anyway, so I hope they implement that. And again, I would love to have some degree of control over when it happens. I feel like the defaults are pretty long. The 6-second Poe default I can sort of survive. The 20-second one apparently I can't, even in places where I would think that I can. But I don't know whether they'll give us that or not. I have no idea. So I'm just sort of, I don't know, I wanted to put my thoughts out there about hardcore Soul Still Found game design. I guess this isn't Soul Still Found specific, but that's how I tend to think of it. And I would really, really like to see some changes like that. The other thing, the other half of this equation is sort of player abuse cases, where some people just think it's a skill thing of when to disconnect when you're in a dangerous situation. And I 100% do this myself, but I sort of wish that I couldn't. I would prefer that to not be there. And there's definitely, I probably don't do it very much compared to like big streamers or whatever, although I do it some. Usually in situations where I don't understand what happened, but that's really still on me, the player. In any case, I've heard that in Poe 2, they're going to do it where when you come back, you're still in the same situation as before, and I love that. I'm really excited about that. It's something that makes me excited as a player that, okay, cool, you're not allowed to just build a character or pilot your character in such a way that you can ignore what's around you. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. I don't know, I felt like I had a lot on this, just the two halves of this disconnection debate, I guess. I'd like to know what you think as well. Am I sort of way off base in this being an issue or what? But for me, it killed both the last league of Path of Exile and Diablo 4 for me, such that I didn't want to play it at all. So it's something that I'm very attuned to going forward. How are they going to make these decisions? Yeah. Let me know what you think. Ecos out.